Can you recall where you were when I shared my diagnosis with you? What was going through your mind? What did you want to say out loud but didn't?
To be honest, if I think about the statement to say something out loud but didn't, in that moment, I don't know that there was anything I wanted to say. I think it's very shocking news to find out. And I think especially if it's not something you've been through before or if it's something that you were not expecting, I think it is quite overwhelming actually.
How did you experience the atmosphere and that period before my surgery?
To be honest, time does definitely affect how you can recall things. But I think if I just had to make an overall, I think it's not one set answer because I think every day would differ. It would depend on what that day was like. But I think it also had a lot to do with how you were going through it because you ultimately had such a big influence in the house and the atmosphere of the house. And I mean, it was you going through it. And I think all of us, obviously, our thoughts were with you and our concerns were about you. And so I think how you were feeling in a day would definitely affect the atmosphere. But I think to a great extent, you went through it very well and you tried really hard to just stay positive and would spend nights up researching and trying to understand.
But I suspect the same happened on your side, and then I would have some emotion and some breakdowns myself. But perhaps you went through the same. Did you go through the same?
Yeah, definitely. I think every person is always dealing with something of their own in terms of thoughts and feelings, and you do always try to consider the next person. And in that scenario, obviously, we were trying to consider you as well, to not make you worry about having to. Yeah, I think it's like a catch-22. I mean, you go through, you doing that for us and we're doing it for you. But yeah, ultimately, you feel like we don't want to make it worse for you, and we also don't want to make you feel like you can't speak to us or you can't share things with us because it makes us unhappy or sad or scared. Because I think there is definitely a desire for transparency and understanding.
Do you think if we were able to be vulnerable with one another and share those feelings, the emotions, all of these things that came up, do you think it would have made it any easier?
I don't think it would have made it easier. I think the whole process, the whole situation of finding out and the operation, and I think the whole thing is quite scary. I don't think there's the sense of making it easier by how we would communicate and be vulnerable, but I think definitely sense of reassurance that you actually recognize that you are both in the same emotional, because protecting one another by hiding it, you also don't get to really see that that person is really sympathizing with you. Or I think there's definitely reward in being vulnerable with one another and to actually share how you are feeling at a certain time. And it really does affect you going down the line, because I think it has an effect on how you communicate and the expectations that you set as well. And that I think is very important, because the expectations for you, for example, that was in that scenario, having just found out you have cancer, you are now going to go for an operation. And even after the operation, I think for you, it's important to be able to be vulnerable and to be able to say, look, this is what I need. These are my expectations. And so I think all of that requires vulnerability and communication.